That had to have been one of, if not the most embarrassing loss of the season. DeWanna Bonner scores over 20 points.
The Indiana Fever's 95-60 defeat at the hands of the Phoenix Mercury wasn't just another regular season loss, it was a headline maker. On the other side of the court stood DeWanna Bonner, a former Fever veteran whose mid-season departure had already stirred plenty of controversy. The added twist? Just days earlier, Sophie Cunningham, now one of Indiana's most vocal leaders, had taken to her podcast to reveal eye-opening details about Bonner's abrupt exit from the team.
And so we'll take her in a heartbeat. Like, she's a Hall of Famer. She's a hell of a basketball player, can score from anywhere on the court. But she got to Indiana and she just really wasn't happy. And it was kind of a surprise that she was signed to Indiana anyway.
The remarks painted a candid picture of how that split unfolded. And whether intended or not, they added a layer of intrigue to this highly anticipated matchup. From the opening tip, there was no ignoring the extra edge in the air. This was the first time the two had met on the court since Cunningham's revelations went public, and the storyline practically wrote itself. A current Fever starter squaring off against the teammate she'd openly criticized. Phoenix played with composure down the stretch, sealing the win and leaving Indiana to answer questions about how much that off-court tension may have factored into the on-court result.
DeWanna Bonner just got done doing your team absolutely dirty. You guys escape with a victory when they come to Indiana, and you wipe your hands of it like it's all over and finished with. No, it goes both ways. This game meant just as much to Sophie Cunningham as it did to the Indiana Fever when DeWanna Bonner made her return.
I'm still rooting for her. I want her to end her career and be happy. But I also think that, it's okay to be professional about it and, send a text to your teammates. Send a text and be like, hey, love you guys. Or you don't even have to say love you guys. Just hey, sorry this didn't work out. Good luck. Da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? There's a way to handle that.
For Cunningham, it was a frustrating night that ended not only with a loss in the standings, but with her former teammate's squad walking away victorious, right after she'd put their past into the spotlight. Sophie Cunningham's clash with DeWanna Bonner's Mercury didn't happen in a vacuum. It came just days after she used her own podcast platform to speak openly about Bonner's abrupt mid-season departure from Indiana. Cunningham, who had shared a locker room with Bonner in both Phoenix and Indianapolis, pulled back the curtain on what she described as an unprofessional and unexplained exit. Without naming every detail, she made it clear that the departure blindsided the team, leaving teammates and coaches in the dark, while Bonner moved on to a new chapter. Her comments were striking not only for their content, but for who delivered them. Cunningham has earned a reputation as one of the league's most outspoken players, unafraid to challenge narratives or call out uncomfortable truths. That blunt approach has made her a fan favorite in Indiana, while also creating friction with opponents, especially those directly in her crosshairs. For Bonner, the timing of those remarks couldn't have been more sensitive. She was already facing a return to play against the team she'd left, and now the reunion carried the weight of Cunningham's public criticism. This backdrop set the stage for a game charged with personal history. Fans knew the storyline. Players on both sides were aware of it, and the stakes felt higher than the standings alone. While Indiana had hoped to turn the night into a statement win, the outcome instead reinforced just how much unfinished business lingers between these two competitors. The question remains, did Cunningham's candor give Phoenix an emotional edge, or was it simply the better team executing when it mattered most? From the opening tip, it was clear this matchup carried more than the usual competitive energy. Every possession seemed to have an extra layer of intensity, as if both teams understood that the real storyline wasn't just about standings. It was about pride, reputations, and unsettled scores. Sophie Cunningham, usually quick to bring energy to the floor, found herself tightly shadowed by Phoenix defenders who weren't just trying to stop her stat line. They were sending a message. Each cut through the lane was met with physical resistance, every catch contested, and the sideline chatter had an unmistakable edge. On the other side, DeWanna Bonner looked like a player who had circled this date on the calendar. While she didn't need to guard Cunningham directly on every possession, her presence loomed large. When Phoenix scored, Bonner's celebrations carried a little more weight. When Indiana faltered, the Mercury bench erupted with an energy that seemed fueled by more than just a routine game. It felt personal. As the minutes ticked by, the Fever's early rhythm began to unravel. Missed defensive rotations, rushed shots, and costly turnovers gave Phoenix exactly the openings they needed. And with every momentum swing, the Mercury played with the kind of confidence that comes when a team senses an emotional upper hand. For all of Cunningham's grit, her impact was muted under the combination of targeted defense and Phoenix's relentless pace. The Mercury weren't just winning on the scoreboard, they were controlling the tone of the night. The real breaking point came late in the third quarter when Indiana had a chance to cut Phoenix's lead to a single possession. Cunningham found herself in perfect position for a corner three, the type of shot she's drilled countless times. But as the ball left her hands, Phoenix's defense collapsed on the rebound, triggering a lightning-fast transition the other way. Bonner, leading the charge, converted an and-one layup, punctuating it with a fist pump that sent a ripple through the arena. It wasn't just a three-point swing, it was a gut punch that swung the game's momentum completely in Phoenix's favor. From that moment, every possession seemed to carry a heavier weight. The Fever's offense sputtered, their passes tighter, their shots more hesitant. Meanwhile, the Mercury fed off the surge, hitting big shots and pushing the pace at every opportunity. Cunningham, visibly frustrated, worked to rally her team, but each rally attempt was met with a Phoenix answer, often coming from Bonner or through plays she helped initiate. The crowd could feel it too. What started as a competitive back and forth had transformed into a showcase of Phoenix's control. That pivotal sequence didn't just shift the scoreboard. It crystallized the emotional and psychological edge the Mercury held. For Cunningham, this was more than just an opponent making plays. It was a reminder that in this high-stakes matchup, every missed opportunity came at the steepest possible cost. When the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard told a blunt story. Phoenix 88, Indiana 76. For Sophie Cunningham, the loss stung more than just in the standings. This was a game loaded with context. A matchup against her former teammate DeWanna Bonner, made even spicier by her recent podcast revelations about Bonner's sudden departure from Indiana. The Mercury's win didn't just hand the Fever a tough defeat. It gave Bonner the satisfaction of walking off the court victorious in their first meeting since those comments made headlines. Post-game, Cunningham maintained her professionalism, but her body language spoke volumes. She congratulated a few Mercury players, but there was no lingering exchange with Bonner, just a quick glance before heading down the tunnel. For Indiana, this loss also carried playoff implications. Dropping a winnable game to a Western Conference opponent meant missing a chance to gain breathing room in the standings, especially during a stretch where every win matters. On the Mercury side, the energy was entirely different. Bonner's teammates rallied around her, treating the victory as more than just another regular season game. Whether or not she used Cunningham's remarks as fuel, the result had the feel of a statement win. And for the Fever, it left the lingering question: did this off-court drama seep into their focus when it mattered most? The Fever's defeat to Phoenix wasn't just another mark in the loss column. It underscored a deeper challenge for Indiana. Handling high-pressure games is one thing, but managing those same games when layered with personal tension is another. Cunningham's recent podcast remarks about Bonner's unceremonious exit from Indiana added a charged backdrop that was impossible to ignore. Even without direct confrontations on the court, the weight of that storyline loomed large. And for a young team still finding its footing without Caitlin Clark on the floor, that kind of distraction can be costly. From a league perspective, this matchup also served as a reminder of how quickly narratives can shift. What was once a discussion about Bonner's controversial departure has now evolved into a question of whether off-court candor can impact on-court performance. The Mercury seemed to thrive under the spotlight, while Indiana looked just a step behind in focus and execution. For Cunningham, the loss could prompt reflection on whether speaking out while honest might also hand extra motivation to opponents. The Fever still control their own playoff destiny, but this game exposed a vulnerability. Emotional undercurrents can influence body language, defensive rotations, and even late-game decision-making. In a league where margins are razor-thin, that's a risk Indiana can't afford to take as the postseason draws closer. For Indiana, the loss to Phoenix won't define their season, but it could serve as a turning point. The Fever have proven they can weather adversity, yet this game was a reminder that focus is just as important as talent. Sophie Cunningham's willingness to speak openly about DeWanna Bonner's departure gave fans rare insight into a contentious moment in the franchise's recent history. But it also added a layer of narrative the Mercury were more than happy to use as fuel. Whether or not that played into the outcome, the optics were clear. Phoenix walked away with both the scoreboard and the psychological win. As the playoff race tightens, Indiana must decide how to handle the balance between honesty and strategic silence. Off-court storylines will always exist, but the teams that advance deepest are the ones who can keep those distractions from spilling into their performance. Cunningham's fire and leadership are undeniable, and she remains one of the Fever's most vital pieces, especially with Caitlin Clark's full return still looming. But the margin for error is shrinking, and every game from here on out carries weight. If the Fever can channel this loss into sharper execution and a united front, it may be remembered as the moment they locked in for the postseason. If not, it risks becoming the start of a costly slide. Either way, the message is clear. Indiana has the tools, but they must keep their eyes on the ultimate prize, not the side battles along the way.